mentioned earlier, we've got an intranet site, and almost on the very front landing page is, if you've got a good commercial idea, share it with us. So at the moment we've gone through, I think we've had 43 commercial ideas. We're kind of sifting through them and use the criteria to judge, which ones can we work on, which ones, are actually, sorry, that's not really going to work, which ones are going to require a lot of energy, time and support, which is fine. So that's part of, empowering the staff to actually come up with their ideas. We're also welcome to ideas from you yourselves or also from the public as well, in terms of what may make a good commercial area. We're not the experts on this, but also I do think we do have a lot of knowledge and expertise living on Wirral, working on Wirral, about what works for Wirral in terms of developing commercial opportunities and also understanding some of the risks that may be around some of these as well. So that's one area that we're working on around it. It's a small part of what we're doing there. I think for me the second part is really about empowering the staff. That's the fundamental part for me, is about providing that support and challenge for staff, particularly managers, in terms of how they take forward their commercial ideas that they may have. And that, I think, has not necessarily always been there in the past. That's what we're looking to develop.
I'm certainly happy to say. I think one of the reasons we wanted to do the committee chairs was to get those ideas about where else we can push a little bit harder. So the entrepreneurial bit, that's really good news. That gives us a bit of a trajectory to go forward.
Well, part of that, yes, Gerry, and then Ron. But what I'd like to say on that, John, Stuart, is talking about the staff. You've got to give the staff the confidence. And the only way you can do that is that the staff have confidence in their line manager and senior management that they can actually come with these ideas. So it's all about empowering the staff through giving them the confidence, which hasn't, because it's a whole new era, isn't it, really? We're asking the staff now to go through something that the public sector has always been the public sector. I think what we've got to remember as well is we're using public money here. And it's not like entrepreneurs out there who have a great idea, let's go and borrow this money off X bank. We're using public money. So we've got that aspect to build in as well, which is important. Gerry.
Thanks very much, Mark. I think it's fantastic what Councillor said. It's important, but I'm always concerned about, is it going to affect existing small businesses? I'm always worried that you might be putting a small business out of business by taking on an activity through the council. So can you tell me, Joe and colleagues, through you, Mike, have you put checks and balances in place so that none of the things you take on are going to directly affect an existing business and put those people out of work? So have you got any information on that? Thanks.
Gerry.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Yeah, just one question. I delivered the report from the Tourism Task and Finish Group to the Cabinet on Monday, and one of the key areas that are highlighted by the Council for promotion, and we all know tourism is the biggest, by the way, you have mentioned, tourism is the largest earner in the Merseyside and City region economy. And one of the key areas that we have to develop is between Woodside and Priory, and we gave, from the point of view of engaging small businesses like Liverpool have done so successfully, and of course taking great advantage of the wonderful scenes that the three graces, the Library buildings, Mersey Docks and Harlem building, the Cllr buildings.
Could you speak up a bit, Gerry?
Sorry, Mike. So my key point is that this is a key council initiative at this moment in time. So what are you doing in that regard to start promoting and developing that area?
Thanks, Gerry. Ron.
Yeah, just to on Gerry's point, I was worth to make out the fact that the government are trying to put the councils out of business, but never mind, also trying to put small businesses out of business. So let's put that one on the table quite clearly. I think Geoffrey also, we get this
that's three, so if you're right,
pick those up here, so small business impact. Yes, I think in part Ron's answered that. We're not at this time engaging in developing new business ourselves, which would impact or encroach on small businesses. But we are careful of that, and that's why we've engaged with the Chamber of Commerce to make sure that we don't inadvertently do that kind of activity. I think what we have done, you may have seen a cabinet report later on last year, which was the creation of the Liverpool and Wirral Social Stock Exchange, which actually enabled small businesses to work with the National Social Stock Exchange in terms of growing their businesses and being more developmental. So in terms of that perspective, that's about us being commercially savvy with other businesses, because what we're trying to do is, as a council, enable the opportunity for businesses to grow. So we've actually continued to do that now to make sure that hopefully what we get out of that, if being blunt, is that we get business rates. So I think the spin-off of that is obviously that there's a means to an end for that level of investment. In terms of tourism and development, particularly around the Woodside area, one of the slides that Stuart had up was about that there are already major projects underway which of themselves are commercially supported through the growth strategy, and that was one of those. So that is high level, high impact, and that's being delivered. And we, through this commercial approach, we kind of don't want to hamper that, because that's big business, that's how it operates, and we need to allow that to have the opportunity for unfettered access to developing in a way that quite clearly you have the ambition for Gerry. So this would more work alongside that as opposed to being overseeing it. I think the third one was about the pension fund, and some really good points around that. And I think that's the opportunity that we've probably missed as an organisation. But to be fair, operates across 117 different contributors, not just the local authorities. It also has access, in terms of its £7 billion. It does have an infrastructure fund that it provides access to the Wallasey region. That's actually for us to tap into and make best use of that innovative catalyst fund that we can access as a local authority. We are about actually half the size of Greater Manchester Pension Fund because of the nature of their catchment area. But of course, there are potential opportunities still further when we move into next year, when we have a pooling operation, pooling of resources, when we have access to £48 billion of infrastructure development as well. So I think that level of investment actually might then tie into some of the potential in terms of something major around the Woodside development or anywhere else it might be. So the fund itself are very willing to invest in areas where it would get a return on its investment. They will do that in Wirral, in Liverpool, they will do it in Essex where they have done. But they've got a fiduciary responsibility to get a return on that investment, and that's the important facet. So they're not averse to actually investing locally, but they do need to make sure that it's a project that actually gets the level of dividend and return that's important. But we believe it, we are working with them. Peter, in fact, was one of the first people to join our group.
David would just like to come in and add further to what Joel and Stuart has said.
It's a couple of comments on the small business question from Councillor Ellis. I think there are things that we do which actually support local small businesses. I think one example, Stuart talked about the Wirral Schools Training Services, which we still provide. We're
it's in its context, it is a brilliantly small theatre. It puts shows on, but it also puts shows on for the community. So sometimes they have to put shows on for the community that of themselves are not necessarily profit makers. As part of that, it's about making sure that its usage is both viable for it to be open, but also secondly is in terms of best use as a community operation. But hence why it's being considered as part of the broader discussions which are going to happen this week about reimagining the leisure and cultural lifestyle approach. That maybe there's another way that we can help the floor to be more economically viable. In terms of Warrington, Stuart, these guys came over to speak to you.
My understanding about the Matalan is that basically Warrington have, if you like, they looked at obviously the land, but looking to build the actual Matalan store, and then what they'll do is they've got a lease agreement, I'm looking at David particularly, but they've got a lease agreement there for the Matalan over 25 years. So I think for them, it's an investment within Warrington itself. Obviously, you get the additional aspects of the business rates that comes in from that, and also. So I think that's where they're coming from. Again, there are other councils around the country that aren't doing this sort of approach. Whereas Sevenoaks, I think, has done quite a bit of work around this. I mentioned Nottingham, of course, has got they're doing property investment linked to doing this as well. So that's the Warrington side of it. I think the important bit for them was whilst it didn't seem necessarily to support the fundamental core aspects of what they're looking for, say, from the Warrington plan. What it was doing was it was an investment opportunity, and it was on Warrington, and it was utilising part of their land.
And I think what they did was they wanted to invest in that so they get a return on that investment. But the second thing was I think they saw that as part of a bigger strategic arm, which I think may be what we're referring to, what Anita was referring to, seeing that as a strategic approach. There's obviously got a massive growth on the Omega Park development, but of course within the fringes of the town centre itself, they needed to ensure that the likes of Matalan stayed, so that there was still a local entity. So they felt that as part of that enabling progress. Yes, they wanted to put shed loads of money into the Omega Park because they had done to get that return, but equally they've used some of that to replan back into the town centre area. Gee, thanks for your excitement, because I thought it was just me actually.
No.
I am really enthused by this. Your questions really rise to be confident about the programmes that we can put in place, that offset for 2020. I think the honest answer is we don't know, there's not the time. But the excitement that certainly we share, that hopefully we can galvanise and get staff involved in. This is a far better solution than the slashing cuts that most local authorities have been to. It just lends itself to being that significant opportunity that we must take. But nevertheless, if we do take it in the spirit its potential, the chances are that actually 2020 will be a problem for us. But it's a real hard ask. It's going to be a lot of hard work for us, and hence why we need to shape it into something that is council-wide. It is engaging with our staff, our managers, our workforce. It is making sure our local businesses, our pension fund, the Chamber of Commerce are working with us on this, so that we can see the benefits. Because that David touched on more importantly about this isn't about actually stopping other things happening either. It's about making sure that the growth, the jobs, etc. Remain in Wirral for the foreseeable future. So I'm confident in my enthusiasm to get us there, which obviously with some of the issues we just made, the challenges may be too much, but I have to say the spirit we've had so far has lent itself to some significant potential opportunity. And I think the energy company being launched this week, I'm not sure that we might have done that 12, 18, 2 years ago. I think that's the level of risk that we're being prepared to take now, and I think that's that pushback that we've had to get in terms of that. I think your risk management only comes with seeing some success. And in terms of grants, bonuses, etc., yes, I mean, it's interesting actually, we've been doing a piece of work to establish just how well we approach central government for grants and other such opportunities. Sometimes they're not available to local authority, hence why we sometimes consider maybe positive, you know, if you really don't know it.
No, I'm just saying we don't see that we don't need to.
Absolutely, because
Okay, all right, we won't have a conversation.
no, it was the only, one chair, it was the only way that that particular authority could actually introduce social housing into the.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
we'll get a comment from Joe or Stuart. Chris?
Yeah, two quick things. I mean, there's commercial enterprise and there's public good, and we talked about that, but there's also social entrepreneurs out there now. There's so many examples of that kind of work that's going on. I think we've got to start, we're talking about changing the culture, we've got to start thinking about the new way in which people are working. And, you know, there's no point in doing any of this if you're not doing it for the people. The reason we're trying to do all this is for the good of our people. So it has to start with people, it has to start with the needs of young people. And, you know, so a lot of the ideas, the innovation from the people out there who are doing it, not within the council, but people who are innovators, who are entrepreneurs. A lot of the social entrepreneurs, where their starting point is, what are the challenges, what are the issues, and what are our ideas that we can bring in that can create solutions, and that's what our culture has to be about. And just a specific one as well is, you know, I share your concerns too about the floral pavilion. And again, I would say it's not about reinventing the wheel. There are a number of publicly owned theatres up and down the country, and some of them have been changing the model and getting quite successful. So it would be good if our officers could be tasked to go away and find out which of the commercially successful publicly owned theatres, what was their success story, how did they do it, and what can we, you know, are the things we can take from that and bring it into the world further forward.
Just look at the winter gardens in Blackpool. That's clean, Josh, if you'd like to comment on
Yeah, just I mean, so one of that particular Manchester housing issue, and to get more information on that, see what the benefits of it, and you're right, and I know that there are other schemes similar across the country. So with
service development proposal. We had a spotlight session on this not so long ago, and it was quite well attended. And Matthew, Patrick, and the officers came along, and it was a really good session. So what we want to bring that to the fore now. The report went to Cabinet on Monday, so I thought we'd invite Patrick along to give us an update. And Matthew,
I answered questions.
Matthew, I can use your surname as well.
Absolutely, Sullivan.
Going back to my military days, using surnames. But it was a really good spotlight session. And this is another thing that I said before on the commercialism. This is something else which is really positive and I think really long overdue. So, Matthew.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm aware. Thank you, Chair. So, happy, as I'm sure you will be delighted to hear, to keep my portion of this fairly brief. But I wanted to come, obviously, to let the committee know, following the spotlight session that Mike mentioned, we took it to Cabinet on Monday, and we approved the report and recommendations. I was pleased to put in the recommendations specifically that we continue to come back to this committee, because I thought that the work and the conversations we had were actually really useful for us, and it helped us sharpen some of our focus. And I know, certainly following this committee, there was a real strong emphasis on making sure that those that were digitally excluded, those socially excluded, those with other difficulties that we needed to help them overcome, that they were front and centre with this, and that speaks very true to my own values. So I was really happy to ensure that was reflected in the report. Obviously now we're at the stage where it's going to be about delivering. So it seems the voice makes, but the hard part starts now, I guess. And I'll be meeting regularly with transformation teams to make sure that they are delivering, because the last thing I want us to be doing is to be looking at this and being concerned about any overspend. So I have made that abundantly clear that I would not be happy at all if that was a request made to me, and very minded to say no and turn around and think of something else. So hopefully you can see that a lot of the comments that you made fit back into the report. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them, and I hope that you recognise we'll continue to come back and report back on progress being made, which I think is an important thing, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew. I hope all members, I take it that all members have read the report. So if anyone's got any questions for Matthew, please raise your hand.
Always one.
Chair, it isn't actually a question.
28 minutes. So I said to this gentleman, and he suffered from anxiety, and he was a vulnerable person. And he was in for the art group, and they were there for a couple of hours. So I said, I'll phone back later, maybe there's been a big influx in calls. So about 11:30, I phoned back. I was then told I was something like 50th in the queue, and my waiting time was an hour and a half. So either the town hall had an influx, the whole of the Wirral were phoning, or we had one little old lady sitting on the end of the phone answering all the questions. So that's just an illustration of where we are now, if you like, and where this access will is going to take us. And I think all members, I think we'll all be aware that probably 85–90% of the Wirral are fine with the internet and sorting out the problems, but it's the other 10–15% of the most vulnerable in our society where this whole thing, this new access Wirral, has got to take into account. It's crucial. So could you just make a brief comment on that one?
Yeah, happily. You're completely right. Hopefully, what Access Wirral can deliver is it will streamline for a lot of people who can do it really easily. For instance, myself, I hope that would be a much quicker system where I'm not waiting on hold for a long time. And in doing that, it would actually reduce the number of people needing to phone in. And as we saw in the presentation, actually, a lot of the calls that are coming in are about repeated requests for information. But actually, if that's streamlined and already dealt with, people like the gentleman you mentioned before, who suffers from anxiety, need to have far more time and dedicated support with somebody. And that's absolutely crucial and vital. Also, I know it was touched upon previously, this is a first stage. I'm hoping if we can get this right and deliver on Access Wirral, then in the future we can have things along the lines of people reporting various street lights out or issues with potholes, etc. And again, rather than what is currently happening where you use 19 different systems, wouldn't that be nice to condense it down to one? It'd be far more efficient for people having to report issues rather, and it'd be far more efficient for people having to do those requests. So I completely echo that. I think it's really important that vulnerable people are looked after, and I think this will help deliver it.
Thank you. Julie.
Thank you, Chair. I actually want to say differently to Mike that I phoned up about a safeguarding issue for adult social care.
I'm sure there are studies that show that if you listen to calming music, it helps people, or if there are these things showing it, it makes me feel better. I'm not to question those. What I want to do is, rather than tweak the music they listen to, I want to massively reduce the amount of time they have to wait. And this is the way I think we do it.
Try and make BT or Sky and then you know.
Tracey.
I just like to agree with Matthew and say that the call centre staff work really hard, and I know sometimes you're waiting ages and ages, but they get a complicated query. If someone's elderly or vulnerable, they can be on the phone for ages, and they have like a clock to say how many calls are waiting, and then they see that as well. So I just wanted to say that.
Well said, Tracey.
Is that why when my board colleague phoned up, we hung on for 5 minutes, it was ringing, and somebody picked up with that number. And I had to start all over again.
Oh,
No,
Chair,
I'll get him to contact you and let you know.
yeah, please do. But I don't think that there's anything to do with the sort of hard work nature of the staff. And as Tracy pointed out, I've been to the system, and you do have that, and it must be quite pressurising. You've got someone who's quite vulnerable, who needs that support. You deal with that. You hear your colleagues are doing it similarly. You're seeing this work stack up. You know when someone's about to